Tonight, pandemonium at the Federal High Court Abuja Division as a lady identified as Abba Kyari's wife slumps. INEC releases final list of candidates for Ekiti governorship election. Commission says it's in compliance with the Electoral Act. Some disturbing news as ASU extends warning strike by 2 months, raising doubts of quick resolution of the impasse between it and the federal government. And Russia-Ukraine diplomats hold talks amid escalating crisis as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky prepares to address U.S. Congress on Wednesday. And more from our London studios and around the world in 5.
On business news tonight, the International Monetary Fund says that Russia's debt default will not trigger a global financial crisis.
On sports news tonight, the American investment firm tasked with selling Chelsea Football Club extends deadline for bids to Friday and expect a sale could happen by the end of this month.
And from Abuja, federal government promises to ensure that students who have been evacuated from Ukraine continue their studies despite the war in the country as 31 more citizens arrive in Abuja.
We begin from the Federal High Court, Abuja, where the suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari, will have to wait until March 28th for the ruling on his bail application and those of his co-accused. Amid today's hearing of the bail applications on the alleged drug trafficking charges brought by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, a woman identified as the wife of the suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police slumped in court. The lady, who wore a black hijab, fell on the floor, while some operatives of the NDLEA rushed to offer assistance.
The suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari, and his co-defendants are back in court for the hearing of their bail application on the alleged drug trafficking charges. When the matter was called, counsel to the former head of the Police Intelligence Response Team, Mr. Mahmood Magaji, urged the court to grant his client's bail as the alleged offence is bailable. However, the prosecution, Mr. Joseph Sunday, urged the court to deny Mr. Kyari and all the other defendants bail on the grounds that Mr. Kyari would escape from the country and make himself unavailable for trial if he is released from custody.
The offence we are talking about is a bailable offence, and we are very confident that the court will do justice, apply the judicial discretion to ensure that the defendants get bail, for them to adequately prepare for their trial.
While one of the alleged co-conspirators needs more time to respond to the NDLEA counter-affidavit, the others chose to make oral responses to the counter-affidavit.
I need to carefully study the document. I need to also look at the proof of evidence that was served to us and be able to be sure that what I have to say in court will be what it is and not what I think it should be.
The NDLEA lawyer objected to the application while telling the court that there are averments in their counter-affidavits that show strong reasons why all the defendants should not be granted bail. However, drama interrupted the proceedings when a middle-aged lady identified as a wife of the suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police slumps. She was aided out of the court premises.
Away from the court to the political scene, which is getting charged by the day as key players take positions ahead of the general elections in 2023. Today, the breakbacks between the governors of Rivers and Edo states assumed a new dimension as Governor Nyesom Wike took a swipe at his Edo counterpart, saying he regretted supporting him during the last governorship election in the state. Governor Wike, who was speaking in Port Harcourt, also publicly apologized to former Governor Adams Oshiomhole for supporting his successor, despite what he terms warnings against such move.
If you watch and if you ask anybody, if you go and check the DNA of Godwin Obaseki, what you see in that DNA is betrayal, serial betrayal, and ungratefulness. The DNA of Obaseki is what? Betrayal, serial betrayal, and ungratefulness. Let me stand today to apologize to Adams Oshiomhole, who have been vindicated by telling us that we will see the true color, we will see the insincerity, we will see the ungratefulness of Governor Obaseki. So let me apologize to Adams Oshiomhole and to say you have been vindicated. You're right. We were wrong. I've never seen people who are so ungrateful in life. I've never seen people who can betray everything in life, never speak the truth. I will never betray any man. Because in my DNA, what is in my DNA is sincerity, consistency, and teamwork.
Meanwhile, former Governor of Kano State, Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso, says the People's Democratic Party will crumble if he leaves the party with his Kwankwasia movement. Amid rumors and speculations that he has already left the PDP for the new Nigeria People's Party, Senator Kwankwaso says he remains in the PDP, but admitted that his new political movement, the National Movement, has joined the NNPP. He was speaking with our political correspondent, Terry Ikumi.
It's like many people are turning my strength into weakness, and that cannot be acceptable. You see, if you look at the scenario in the Northwest during the Congress, things that were taken to Kano, the vice chairman of the zone, was supposed to be given to me to nominate somebody. Just like it was done in Katsina, Shema nominated what was allocated to him. So it is only in Kano that they thought I was too small, really, to be given that position. And that's what triggered the whole thing. And everybody kept quiet. We are so happy that maybe Kwankwaso is not needed in the party. But what I'm saying is, okay, this is politics. You should be where people should take you seriously. And especially in our parties, if you are in opposition, you have to come together as a family.
You think this is intentional? You think someone's trying to cut your political wings?
Well, you know, many people, sometimes you find individual or even group attempting to do what one can call political suicide. Because you see, once we leave the party, like we did in 2015, it will be a disaster for the party, for the PDP. Some people are calling NPP now the third force. Once we join it, maybe it will be the second force, maybe only next to.
So you fear that the PDP could crumble if you leave the PDP?
There's no question about it. They cannot. Where are the leaders? Who are the leaders? They will crumble.
You can watch the full interview with Senator Kwankwaso on Political Paradigm. It airs tomorrow, Tuesday, March 15th, 2022, only on Channels Television at 11 p.m. While the seeming mudslinging continues in the PDP, the intrigue surrounding the leadership of the All Progressives Congress appears to be deepening. It comes as the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodinma, throws his weight behind the Buni-led Caretaker Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee. According to Governor Uzodinma, relieving the Yobe State governor of his position in the party should have followed due process. He insists that Buni remains the acting national chairman of the party. Mr. Uzodinma was speaking on our program, Politics Today.
The chairman of APC Caretaker Extraordinary Committee for Pension is Alhaji Maimana Bunu, the governor of Yobe State.
Whom we understand that the president said he should be kicked out?
No. You see, let me tell you how this thing works. You see, and the business is more serious than some people think. He is the chairman of the party, and he is there by the mandate of National Executive Committee, NEC. And he traveled for medicals. And Bello is acting for him for now. As soon as he comes back, he will resume. The chairman is a decision of NEC. And once NEC has taken a decision, not even one man, nobody can change it unless NEC meets again to take another decision. But for now, until NEC meets, that's why I'm not surprised that INEC wrote that letter saying that he is the one to sign. He is really the one to sign because before he will be changed, there will be another meeting of NEC. Memana is coming back. As soon as he comes back, he will authorize the NEC meeting. If that's the opinion of the president, if that's what we want. The president is the leader of the party. As I speak to you, we are all loyal and committed members of the party and the leadership of the party. I cannot, with due respect to anything anybody will say, encourage anybody not to be loyal to the leadership of the party. But because it is also a rule-driven party, we must follow the dictates of the constitution of our party, because that is sacrosanct. That is the only way to deepen democracy. Otherwise, we will be allowing a situation where some people can do anything and get away with it.
In other political matters, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has published the final list of 16 candidates cleared to contest the Ekiti governorship election slated for June 18th. According to a statement by INEC National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, Mr. Festus Okoye, Abiodun Abayomi Oyebanji was cleared as the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, with Afuye Monishade as his running mate, while Olabisi Kolawole got the Commission's nod as the People's Democratic Party candidate, with Kolakbo Olubenga Kolade as his deputy. Two women were also declared as governorship candidates, including Elebute Hali Kemi of the ADP and Christiana Olatawura of the APP, while 7 women were cleared to contest as deputies in different parties. The Commission says this is in compliance with the Electoral Act following the close of nominations by political parties. For the full list of the governorship candidates, do visit our website, channelstv.com. States should be allowed to determine how to implement the financial autonomy for the judiciary and the legislature. It's the view of Governor Samuel Along of Plateau State, who was speaking during the opening of the maiden meeting of the Attorneys General of the states in Abuja. Our correspondent, Dele Moyeni, reports.
The Secretariat of the Nigeria Governors Forum is hosting Attorney Generals of states to foster a united front on issues bothering the collective interest of states. Aside from security, the issues of value-added tax, stamp duty collection, the fallout of the London Paris Club reforms, and other contentious legal issues are expected to dominate the conversations here, albeit behind closed doors. During the opening session, former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Kanu Agadi, finds a nexus between the security challenges in the country and injustice, corruption, and abuse of power by the leaders.
It is you who ensure that the rule of law is maintained and that government actions are legally and constitutionally valid. When you have to tell the truth to the governor at a time when flattery is rampant. There are no shortages of people who want to flatter the governors. And if your own Attorney General lies to you or flatters you, he is administering a poison to you.
Governor Simon Lalong of Plateau State represented the chairman of the forum and explains how the governors want financial autonomy for the judiciary and legislature to be implemented.
Ranging from the administration of our criminal justice system, stamp duties, the value-added tax, the fallout from the London Paris Club reforms, culminating in the criminal bid to deprive states of $419 million. This requires your attention and the forum looks forward to your views and advice on the way forward.
For the next 2 days, the state attorney generals are expected to discourse on various issues affecting the subnationals. This is expected to aid their engagements with their principals. From Abuja, Delia Moyeni, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, ASU extends warning strike by 2 months, raising doubts of quick resolution of the impasse between it and the federal government. Do join us again. Welcome back. If it has joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Lady identified as Abba Kyari's wife slumps at the Federal High Court in Abuja. ASU extends warning strike by 2 months, raising doubts of quick resolution of the impasse between it and the federal government. INEC releases final list of candidates for Ekiti governorship election, says it's in compliance with the Electoral Act. And Russia-Ukraine diplomats hold talks amid escalating crisis as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky prepares to address U.S. Congress on Wednesday. The leadership of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has extended its ongoing strike by 8 weeks, describing the way the federal government has treated their demands in the last 1 month of warning strike as mindless and nonchalant. In a statement, ASU President Professor Emmanuel Osedoke notes that the National Executive Committee of the Union is not satisfied with the way the federal government has treated its demands in the last 1 month and has resolved to roll over the strike by 8 weeks beginning from today. The National Executive Committee of ASU had convened an emergency meeting on Sunday to review the responses to its 1-month warning strike. The university lecturers are on strike to pressure the federal government to honour its agreement with them. Some of the burning issues leading to the strike include the unresolved payment platform, as ASU insists on the university's Transparency and Accountability System, UTAS, as against the government's Integrated Personnel Payroll Information System, IPIS, unpaid earned academic allowances of members, as well as university revitalization funds. Let's get more stories now from Linda in Abuja. Hi, Linda. Great to see you.
Hello, Amarachi. Good to see you too. Now let's turn our attention to the ongoing evacuation of Nigerians trapped in Ukraine. The federal government is assuring the students who have returned that their studies will not be stopped because of the war in the country. The Director, Consular and Legal Department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Akinremi Bolaji, gave this assurance while receiving another batch of 31 evacuees from Romania. They arrived at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, at about 6:30 a.m. on board Turkish Air. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
This is the 7th batch of returnees since the federal government began evacuating its citizens who are caught up in the war in Ukraine. Traumatized by their experiences, the government officials who received them tried to calm their nerves with some words of assurance.
Your schools are reaching out to us for the possibility of online study. But whatever happens, you will not lose any year. Therefore, concerning your education, be rest assured. What we will need from you now is proper documentation. We have your name here, but please ensure that the telephone number and the emails are correct, because that's the way we can reach you.
We're here to help you. So don't see yourself as, people that are in crisis. No, you're back home safe, and that's what's important. And I wish you all, a very smooth stabilizing period, and I hope that the war ends very quickly so that you can go back to normalcy.
The evacuees are made to line up as the details are collected. They're also given the sum of 100 United States of America dollars each to take care of their logistics, and also a SIM pack to enable them to establish contact with their loved ones immediately.
We spent most of our formative years in Ukraine for like 6 years. So when this war happened, it was a real shock for us, and it was just the second day that we evacuated, and it was a lot of chaos happening. So we're just grateful that the Nigerian embassy was able to evacuate us safely back to our countries. Yeah.
I'm happy to be safe, to know that I'm safe now. But I pray that things get better so I could be able to go back and continue my education.
While these evacuees are glad to be back home, many Nigerians in Ukraine and those who have fled to other neighboring countries are hoping that this gesture by the Nigerian government will get to them as soon as possible. This latest evacuation brings the total number of Nigerians that have been evacuated from Ukraine to 1,600. The Nigerian government says it will continue to work out modalities to ensure safe return of all Nigerians who are willing to return to their fatherland. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, some Nigerians who are still trapped in Ukraine have been speaking about their ordeal, especially those in the Russian-occupied Kherson. Jerry Kenny is one of them, and he is the head of the International Students Union in the city. He says they are not allowed to exit the city, which has been under attack.
To gain exits, that's the Green Corridor, because it has been captured by the Russians. So they are preventing the Ukrainian army's invasions. So that's why there's no Green Corridor. And moreover, the bombing, the sounds, and the explosion is really, really terrible. And now, in terms of no provisions, medical aid are limited because they attend to the casualties in the hospitals first, because they are taken as the priority. So for you that are getting sick with cold, some little things that can transfer to something else, then you have no options than to stay indoor and look for possible means to help yourself in terms of treatment. It has been a very terrible situation, and I've been doing this all alone until 2 days back, where some NGOs contacted me because I stopped receiving calls from people, because everybody just call you. They ask for how are you doing, when you know the situation is critical, and nobody's doing anything. So for now, I would say there's some improvement in terms of the people that are coming in board to see how they can evacuate us here from Kherson.
And still on the evacuation of Nigerian students in Ukraine, the federal government says it has, through its ambassador in Russia, been seeking ways for Nigerians in the Ukrainian city of Kherson to be evacuated. Professor Abdullahi Shehu said he and the Nigerian ambassador to Ukraine had been liaising with the Russian authorities on the possible evacuation of Nigerians trapped in Kherson. He was speaking during an interview earlier on in our program on the Russian invasion.
My colleague, the Nigerian ambassador in Ukraine, discussed with me the situation in Ukraine, and the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs directed me to contact the Russian authorities to seek for assistance for Nigerian students that are stuck in Kherson. We swam into action with immediate effect, even though it was on a Sunday, and we were informed that some humanitarian agencies are providing food, water, etc., and we were advised on how to inform our citizens to take advantage of the humanitarian aid that was being provided. So even yesterday, when we got to know about this, a list of 32 students, majority Nigerians, was sent to us. And I personally spoke to Jerry, who had just spoken on this program, to explain to him the steps that the Nigerian government, particularly through the Nigerian embassy in Ukraine and the Nigerian embassy in Moscow, to try to evacuate them out of Kherson. This is not something that will happen instantly. We need to engage with the authorities to develop a strategy as to where and how they are going to evacuate, or we are going to evacuate our citizens.
Away from the evacuation, some business owners in Benin City, the Edo State capital, are appealing for help from the government following the losses they incurred after a fire outbreak on their business premises in the early hours of today. The fire was said to have been triggered by an electric spark from a cable on a pole in front of the building, which landed on an object in front of the house. Firefighters from the federal and state services were eventually succeeded in putting out the fire, which started at about 4 a.m.
Sympathizers attempt to salvage property as fire rages at house number 22 Plymouth Road in Benin City, the Edo State capital, early on Monday morning. Firefighters from the state and federal services arrived to join in battling the inferno. Hours later, the damage is clearer. An eyewitness gives his account as property owners lament.
At about exactly 8 minutes after 4, there was a spark of fire from that corner. Then I raised an alarm that there is fire, fire, fire.
At about 6 this morning, I sent my son to go and buy bread for me. The next thing I could hear, my phone was ringing. When I pick up that phone, he said, "Mom, you come, your store is burning." That was my people, we all run there. As we are seeing it now, my 3 fridge got burned. The goods that I have got burned. I just want to thank God for everything that happened.
This young man inherited his father's decades-old business after graduation. A laundry services operator also touched on the magnitude of their loss.
The new modern washing machine is born. That one makes this year. Let me open it.
I'm into sales and maintenance of electronics. That's what I do. Customers' items are here, both the ones I'm selling, they are all here too. And I came and I met the whole place in a mess. You know, I'm even confused right now.
I don't know how we start. This is a customer that is here now. The clothes, these are the clothes that was ironed down and prepared, more than 25 pairs. All the machines, washing machine, money, and other things inside there, nothing be removed.
The shop owners also appeal to the state government and relevant bodies to help them recoup their losses. Jessica Olubuse, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the news at 10, the International Monetary Fund says Russia debt default not likely to trigger a global financial crisis. Join us again.
Welcome back. You may have experienced it today. Lagos State, Abuja, Enugu and other cities across the country experienced a blackout following the collapse of the national grid earlier today. No fewer than 4 distribution companies confirmed the development, informing their customers of the situation in their respective domains. They blame the outage being experienced by consumers in various states and the Federal Capital Territory on a general system collapse that occurred at about 10:40 a.m. Eco Electricity Distribution Company, in a statement, assured customers it is following up with the Transmission Company of Nigeria to restore power. To infrastructure development now in Rivers State, where Governor Nyesom Wike has reaffirmed his commitment to development of education, as well as the growth of local economy and the empowerment of indigenous contractors. He stated this during the commissioning of the remodeled community secondary school in Omanwa in Ikwere local government area. The inauguration was performed by the former Minister of Information and Culture, Professor Jerry Ghana.
In the heart of Omarwa, a remote community in Ikwere local government area, is the latest contribution of Governor Nyesom Wike to the provision and expansion of access to quality education in Rivers State. Located on over 200 plots of land, a once dilapidated community secondary school is remodeled into 5 blocks of 6 classrooms, 350 capacity hostel and dining hall, laboratories, principal staff quarters, amongst others. And the indigents cannot hold back their joy as Governor Wike joins in the wrestling dance performance. To perform the inauguration is the former Minister of Information and Culture, Professor Jerry Ghana, who is in company of other Middle Belt PDP leaders, and he hails Governor Wike's style of governance.
Good governance is really to know what are the wishes of the people and to provide the wishes of the people. The kind of facilities and infrastructure and the thing that will make people's lives to be more meaningful. This governor knows exactly what he's doing. He knows the wishes of his people and is using the resources of the state to deliver projects like this that are very, very dear to the community. I'm delighted that I'm commissioning an educational institution because education is primary, education is vital, education is important.
For Governor Nyesom Wike, the construction of the school will not only expand access to quality education, but also encourage the development of the local economy.
Let me, on behalf of the government and people of the state, most sincerely appreciate and thank you for coming to honor us to commission this school in Omarwa, in Ikwere local government area. Of course, we wouldn't have expected any other person other than you, who, as a professor, who are somewhat in the leading light of the party in this country, who said you should come and see the little we have contributed.
It is expected that the school within this rural area will, in no small measure, contribute to the advancement of education and development in Rivers State.
Flourish Africa, a non-profit organization, today signed off on a 1 billion naira grant to support and promote entrepreneurial activities of African female-owned businesses over a 5-year period through coaching and mentoring programs. The project, which begins with a pilot phase in Lagos and Abuja, will empower at least 2,500 female entrepreneurs across the continent through funding and structured training. Flourish Africa's 1 billion naira funding agreement is another initiative aimed at empowering women to play key roles in business and social transformation. This will cover training from its partners, Elo Consulting, Google and PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Our prayer is that we're scaling up. We do plan to scale up.
The founder of the Female Empowerment Platform, a Nigerian billionaire businesswoman, Apostle Folorunsho Alakija, sheds light on this philanthropic initiative.
Flourish Africa has decided to ensure that the funding that is so difficult for women to be able to access is now being made available through a grant that will last for the first 5 years in the amount of 1 billion naira, which each individual out of the 500 women that we pick out per year will be able to access to the tune of 2 million naira each. This is to help them in their businesses.
Representatives of the partner organizations highlight some of the processes involved in the training of female entrepreneurs eligible for the funding.
Our goal at Google is really to help these entrepreneurs bridge this digital divide, help them to use digital to really turbocharge their businesses.
Apostle Alakija speaks further on the deal between Flourish Africa and its partners.
We signed with Elo Consulting to provide training in every aspect of business and enterprise to make them better business women.
It's meant to be a 3-month online training. Everything is going to be done online. At the end of each module of the program, they would also be giving quizzes so that we can ensure that learning has been embedded. At the end of the 3 months training, there's also a plan to take them through a 1-year business plan advisory. That way, we're sure that their businesses are actually ready, or that the women are actually ready and well equipped with the skills they need.
With the takeoff of this female entrepreneurship funding initiative, Flourish Africa believes more women across Africa will get to achieve their full potential. To some company news now. Property World Africa Network Group, P1, one of Nigeria's real estate companies, says it's empowering people to earn a living through affiliate companies and also creating avenues for Nigerians to acquire affordable homes. The managing director of P1 Group, Jane Omumere, says the company is helping many Nigerians live their dreams. She made the remarks at the 10th anniversary of the group in Lagos, where a large number of P1 business owners were rewarded with performance bonuses and cars.
Over 500 delegates from across Nigeria are gathered in this hall. It's not just the annual conference of the Property World African Network Group, one of Nigeria's leading property companies. The group is also celebrating 10 years of being in the real estate business.
In 107 locations with offices, with over 300 estates, it cannot be man. It cannot be man. It is not me. It is God that has made it possible. This is not a business. This is a ministry of serving humanity.
While speeches are necessary, the focus is more on rewards for everyone who has pushed the real estate and networking vision vigorously. One after the other, performance bonus winners mount the podium to take their dummy checks.
In appreciation of our hard work.
For some, cars come with the bonuses. After 10 years of success, what's in store for the next decade?
P1 has empowered over 200,000 families who are earning their living on weekly basis, from the purse of P1 through the sales of property. So 10 years from now, we can also say maybe we should be around 400 to 500,000.
We educate you in terms of training. We give you the free training on weekly basis to make you get better, especially because every business has its language. Real estate has its own language.
Property World Africa Network is a real estate company present in 21 states in Nigeria. With a multi-level marketing arm, the company says it exists to make home ownership dreams a reality for all in Nigeria, Africa and beyond.
Let's get some more business news now. Here's Anne Mawudu.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Amarachi. Hello and welcome to Business News. The International Monetary Fund, the IMF, says a debt default from Russia after sanctions over its invasion of Ukraine will not trigger a global financial crisis. According to the IMF Managing Director, Kristalina Georgieva, the sanctions imposed on Russia were already having a severe impact on the Russian economy and will trigger a deep recession in the country this year. She further adds that the war in Ukraine will also drive up food and energy prices, leading to hunger in Africa. European Union states are set to adopt new sanctions against Russia's oil major companies. However, EU governments say the new measures will not prevent EU states and companies from buying oil from the 3 Russian companies. Under this new EU sanctions, Rosneft, Transneft and Gazprom Neft will be subjected to a transaction ban which will eventually block investments and other transfers of financial resources to them. These 3 oil companies are already subject to EU restrictions on loans and debt financing. And back here in Nigeria, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry is asking government at all levels to open reserves to boost supplies of grain in order to stabilize prices, at least in the short term. With the war in Ukraine already putting pressure on food supply in Nigeria, the Chamber says the government would intervene by initiating import of wheat from other sources outside the war zones. The long-term solution, however, will be for the government to boost local production of these staples to a level that meets local demand. The LCCI is also asking the federal government to take seriously the completion of projects like the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline, a planned natural gas pipeline from Nigeria to Algeria, as well as exploring the opportunity of exporting gas to Europe. And we head to the local market now, where it kicked off the first trading day of the week in negative territory. The all-share index dipped marginally by 0.02% on sell pressure. Ini John Mekwa has more.
Well, thank you so much. Welcome to the stock market report. The market lost the positive sentiment it ended with last week as the all-share index dipped 0.02% at 47,428.67 points, while investors lost 5 billion naira. Not so much on the surface, but enough to bring the bear back. Or even the bear did not influence the activity chart, as we see that it's all in the green. Volume, value and deals were much higher than Friday's session, an indication that market activities today were more of sell-off by investors. Well, banking stocks stopped the trades as FCMB had a volume of over 1 billion, valued at over 3.8 billion naira. Well, and it gained 10 kobo on its share price to close at 3 naira 60 kobo. Once again, RT Briscoe tops the gainers list. I wonder what's going on with that shares. We don't seem to be able to understand what's pushing it, but it stays there at the top gainers list. It added 7 kobo to close at 80 kobo. Last week started with a negative trade but ended in the green. Can the market be heading to that path again this week? Well, we'll find out tomorrow and the next session and the next session and the next. That's the stock market report. I'm Ini John Mekwa.
Thanks a lot, Ini. Let's check out the closing numbers for other major markets around the world. And with those numbers, we end business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Amarachi.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks, Anne. Representatives of Russia and Ukraine are set to hold a 4th round of talks as Russian forces continue advancing into Ukraine. Our previous talks have not led to any major breakthroughs and have instead focused on humanitarian issues and ceasefires to allow citizens to leave cities under attack by Russia. Simon Pusey has more on the Russian invasion of Ukraine and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The bloody reality of war. This man, just one of 12 injured in the rocket attack on an apartment block in central Kyiv. 1 person died in the shelling. Fire and rescue workers also cleared debris and fought flames in Kharkiv. Ukraine's second-largest city has seen some of the worst bombing since the conflict began. Meanwhile, a pregnant woman and her baby have died after Russia bombed the maternity hospital in Mariupol, where she was meant to give birth. Earlier, the UK's health minister said the Russian president would be held personally accountable for what he called war crimes.
We know already from the WHO they've got documented evidence of 31 such attacks here throughout Ukraine on health facilities. These are war crimes, and Putin will be held responsible.
Meanwhile, the Ukraine's president has visited a hospital housing wounded soldiers today. Volodymyr Zelensky chatted and took selfies with the patients before awarding them with the state honours for their sacrifices. He was in the Kiev region to honour the 106 servicemen, 17 posthumously, with the title Heroes of Ukraine. The US says China will face consequences if it helps Russia evade sanctions in its invasion of Ukraine. The exchanges come before top US and Chinese officials meet in Rome. US media outlets, citing Washington officials, say that Russia has in recent days asked China specifically for military equipment, including drones. In response, China's foreign ministry denied the reports and described such stories as disinformation.
This is an important step in the fight.
Australia and the Netherlands say they have begun joint legal action against Russia at the International Civil Aviation Organization over the downing of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 8 years ago.
Russia has to date refused.
Australia's foreign minister told a news conference that Russia was responsible under international law for the downing of the flight. MH17 was flying from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur on July the 17th, 2014, when it was hit over rebel-held eastern Ukraine by what international investigators and prosecutors say was a Russian-made surface-to-air missile.
This is an important step in the fight for truth, justice and accountability for all of the victims of MH17.
Shanghai has closed schools, parks, cinemas and suspended some long-distance travel amid a resurgence of COVID-19 cases across the city. Mainland China has reported 1,337 new domestically transmitted COVID-19 cases and confirmed symptoms, 41 of which were in Shanghai. The highly transmissible Omicron variant has also triggered an outbreak in Shenzhen. Shanghai authorities announced the closure of all schools except some university-level classes from Monday as part of the containment measures. The number of people known to have died since Cyclone Gombe made landfall in Mozambique has risen to 12. The number is expected to rise because some areas in the most severely affected coastal districts, such as Monaqual and Luipo, remain inaccessible and without communications or power. It is expected that this severe weather will continue through the week, with the possibility of another tropical storm forming towards the end of the week. Tropical Storm Anna, which struck in January, and Dumako in February, had already affected more than 200,000 people in the region. And the Rolling Stones have announced their first UK shows since the death of their drummer Charlie Watts last year. The band will play in Liverpool and London as part of their 60th anniversary tour of Europe this summer. Watts died of an unspecified illness last August at the age of 80. When the band returned to the stage the following month, singer Mick Jagger dedicated the show to his old friend. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. And now to sports news. The American investment firm tasked with selling Chelsea expects a sale could happen by the end of this month after positive conversations with the UK government, as the deadline for bids have been extended to Friday, March the 18th. The government will need to issue a new license for the club to be sold after owner Roman Abramovich was sanctioned last week. But after an agreement that the funds from the sale could go to a charitable organization or into a frozen account, there is confidence the process of getting a new license will be smooth. Ralf Rangnick has backed Cristiano Ronaldo to produce another decisive display in Manchester United's Champions League showdown with Atletico Madrid just 3 days after a superb hat-trick against Tottenham. Rangnick's side hosts the Spanish champions in the second leg of their last 16 tie tomorrow night after a 1-1 draw in Madrid last month. Seven-time world champion Lewis Hamilton is hoping to win back the title from Red Bull's Max Verstappen after a controversial end to the 2021 season after the Dutchman was allowed by race control to take back his place after a safety car overtaking Hamilton in the final lap with fresh tyres to clinch the title. Hamilton said the off-season was a chance for reflection, where he unplugged from social media and spent time with his family, realizing winning isn't everything, and that losses can also help a person grow. And that sports news is back to you, Amaranth.
Thanks, Chris. And the main news again. The Federal High Court in Abuja today fixed March 28th for ruling on the bail applications of the suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police and his co-accused who are standing trial on drug trafficking charges. Also today, INEC released the final list of candidates for Ekiti governorship election. The Commission says it's in compliance with the Electoral Act. That's it on the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Good night.